I haven't been the biggest fan of the last decade or so of popular fantasy. Now, that's not to say that I think most of it is bad. Quite the contrary, I actually think a good chunk of it has been very good. I couldn't in good faith call Baldur's Gate 3 or The Witcher 3 bad. No, my problem isn't with quality, but something much, much simpler. A lot of fantasy has been getting too dark. Dark fantasy has been around for a long time, but for me it feels like the 2010s and early 2020s have been oversaturated with it. And in all honesty, a majority of it has been pushing the limits, if not outright dancing, on the line between dark and grimdark. The difference is that in dark fantasy, things can get better. Sure, there will always be Darkspawn to fight in Thedas, but the Warden leaves the world in a better place whether they live or die. Warhammer, on the other hand, has no such narrative. Everything will always suck. And that's where I draw the line. There's just nothing interesting to me about narratives deprived of hope or joy. Most of the time, I don't really like pointing the finger, but when it's super obvious or absolutely necessary, I will do what I must. It's HBO's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is to blame. Ever since it aired, we have been seeing more and more series try to emulate it. Again, this isn't saying that it's bad, it's just that it feels like it's missing something. And that something is romance. Not romance like love between two people, but as in its other definitions. A quality of mystery, excitement, and remoteness from everyday life. Or a medieval tale dealing with a hero of chivalry. That is what's missing from a lot of modern fantasy. So many modern stories have grand adventures, but they fail to capture the beauty of the extraordinary because they're too concerned with surprising you or weaving a complex narrative you need to take notes on. All of that can be great, but sometimes all you need is a farm boy filled with hope, taken from his ordinary life to save a princess. Or an elf setting out on a journey to find heaven. Frieren is the first time in a long time that I have truly felt the romance of fantasy again. Pretty much since Avatar: The Last Airbender. And that's a huge part of what makes it so good. A lot of the people I've talked to don't really seem to understand why they like it so much. But Himo explains it in the perfect way.
最後まで楽しみよ。楽しく冒険してダンジョンに潜って魔物を倒して宝を探して気がついたら世界を救っていたようなそんな旅がしたいんだ。
That is what fantasy should be. A lot of times characters are torn from their mundane lives to get the narrative going. So of course it needs to be serious. But that doesn't mean there should never be fun. Fern, Frieren, and Stark are such a good cast, and they're fun to watch. Partly because they're enjoying themselves. And they bring out the best, and sometimes worst, in each other. They want to be there. So you want to be there with them.
フリーレン様は ガラクタみたいな魔道具を集めて楽しそうに笑っていました。つられて笑ってしまったんです。
And that's not to say that it's too silly, because when it has its darker moments, it handles them very seriously. They aren't cracking jokes or quipping during an intense situation. They're treating it like the serious matter it is. We're pretty sure no one will die, but a battle with demons can still feel pretty stressful. And when all of that's over, it always comes back to being fun again. A lot of people read or watch fantasy because they want to escape their mundane lives. They want to be the ones to go on an adventure. That's why isekai became so popular. Their characters are usually so devoid of personality that they're easy to project onto and imagine that you're the one doing all those cool things. And even the darkest moments are more appealing than going to work a 9 to 5 every day for the next 60 years.
Take that, depression!
But if we had a choice, truly had a choice, wouldn't we all want to experience something fun instead?
俺たちだって生きて帰れるかどうかわからないんだ。
アイゼンは辛く苦しい旅がしたいのかい？僕はね、終わった後にくだらなかったって笑い飛ばせるような楽しい旅がしたいんだ。
And there's more to it than it just being fun. When it comes to the point of fantasy, Frieren gets it. Even though the action is cool and beautifully animated, it's not the most important or most glorious thing. Instead, it's something forced on the party, something they have to get through to reach their goal. Flamma even says as much when she takes Frieren to meet Serie. Serie won't be able to defeat the Demon King because she can't imagine a world of peace. To go even further into it, let's compare apprentices. Lernen is shown as lesser to Fern because of their master's worldviews and how they were taught. Lernen states that he was lucky to see the fluctuations in Frieren's mana, and is incapable of seeing it in Serie's. Fern, however, easily spotted the fluctuations when she met Serie. Frieren even admits that she underestimates Fern, which is a sign that she acknowledges that her apprentice may very well surpass her. While Lernen is treated as being unable to best Frieren because he is too battle-focused. And while we don't know what spell he got from Serie, we know what Fern chose. A spell to clean clothes. It's the little things like that that remind me of one of the most important lines from one of my favorite fantasy stories, echoing a sentiment that feels long gone from a lot of modern fantasy.
Shai must truly be a great realm master, Genji, where gardeners are held in high honor.
I know a lot of people won't agree with me here. Just look at the popularity of shows like Game of Thrones and Attack on Titan, with their anyone can die mission statements. But I don't think I'll ever be able to think like that. That strange fascination with realism isn't what makes fantasy great. There's a lot of beauty in the world and the life happening all around us. So why is it that when people want realism in stories, they just mean they want things to be negative? to be sadder? Wouldn't it be better if we added the beauty of looking at a sunrise after a job well done? Or celebrating the birthday of someone you truly care about, whether you feel eros for them or philia? I know that's what I'd rather see. I'll take epic battles with dragons and being able to cast amazing spells any day of the week. But if there's no joy, nothing to look forward to when it's all over, then what's the point? Most fantasy stories tend to end with a big climactic battle to represent the defeat of evil. And it's because of that we've lost sight of the truth. We put this big emphasis on the epic confrontations because
こんな小さな人助けに何の意味がある？
確かに小さな人助けだ。きっとこんなことをしたって世界は変わらない。
But that's where most stories seem to get it wrong. Sauron is defeated not by the battle at the Black Gate, but by two hobbits sneaking into Mordor to throw a ring into lava. The Galactic Empire doesn't fall because Luke killed the Emperor in a lightsaber duel, but instead because after nearly falling to the dark side, he throws his weapon away and reignites the hope in his father. It's easier to remember the big things. The magic, fighting dragons and demons and evil space wizards. But Frieren wants us to remember the small things. Stark's fight with the Solar Dragon was more grandiose, but in all honesty, that part is no more important than Frieren and Fern cleaning a beach. We spend more time with them doing mundane things, with them helping the random people they meet along the way. People adore Stark wherever he goes, but we rarely see him in a fight. Weirbull does the best to help the people he meets, leaving every place he visits just a little bit better than when he arrived. Because as great as those epic battles are,
Saruman believes that it is only a great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love.
I know Frieren probably won't remain so chill forever. That she, Fern, and Stark will probably have to face something grand and epic at Enday. But with the outlook Himmel has spread throughout the world on his journey, I have faith that Yamada Kanehito understands the difference between mature and grimdark.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. The shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something. Even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. because they were holding on to something. There's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
Fantasy should be romantic. It should fill me with hope that when the world is at its darkest point, a boy will come along to pull a sword from a stone. It should remind me that there is more at play than the will of evil. That no matter how bad things can get, when I step out the door, I should be looking forward to what I'll find, not dreading what terrible things could happen. Even if it's something as simple as finding a field of flowers.